Really happy to share this talk with you. Before we can flow, we've got to let it go, right? Makes sense. Makes sense until it's time to do it. So do you ever wonder why there's times in your life when things seem to be stuck? Has anybody felt stuck? Oh, yeah. Of course we have. You're consciously doing your prayer meditation. You're doing your forgiveness work. You're lovingly and joyfully tithing to wherever it is you get spiritually fed, which hopefully is here. But still you're aware that movement seems to have dropped its anchor somewhere, and moving forward seems nearly impossible. Do you ever feel like that? The forward movement is just nothing's happening. Yeah, it happens to all of us. It doesn't take long till we might think, like Neil Donald Walsh said one time, this stuff doesn't work. Have you ever heard him say that? I'm a Neil Donald Walsh fan, so I have. We might throw up our hands inwardly and say, you know, I've been in that place before, and I can say, even though I was a prayer chaplain, as I had been for many, many years, and I took every class offered, and I consulted with the minister, and I was a spiritual mentor, or with my spiritual mentor, there was still something inside that blocked my forward movement. Well, the essence of all of us is energy. Our physical and our ethereal selves depend on the unrestricted flow of life energy. I love this word ethereal, right? It means extremely delicate and light in a way that seems too perfect for this world. I love envisioning myself this way. We usually envision angels as ethereal beings, but it's lovely to think of ourselves as ethereal beings as well, because we are. We are. Even though the channels through which this energy flows are open systems, sometimes our inner being is influenced by factors outside of our control. Like, for instance, how others behave, or the outcome of something we have invested ourselves in. It just doesn't work out the way we had hoped. But still, ultimately, it's up to us to choose what impact these circumstances have in our lives. Choice is paramount. It's up to us, each of us, to identify and clear any blockages in the energy field to ensure that the flow is maintained. So if you paid attention, or if your body paid attention during the meditation, that's what I was trying to do, was to push out, allow you to clear out some stuck places in your chakra field. So I want us to stop for a minute and do a rampage of release. So I'm going to very quickly shout out some things that we might need to release. And there's power options too. So and releasing is a powerful option. So I'm going to go rapidly through, and at the end, I want you to rapidly shout out something I already said or something that you came up with that I might have missed. Are you ready? Okay. I release thoughts of illness. I release thoughts of anger. I release thoughts of not enough. I release thoughts of poor relationships. I release thoughts of loneliness. I release thoughts of growing old and decrepit. I release thoughts of no friends. I release thoughts of I live in an unacceptable home. I release thoughts of depression, of pain, of sadness, right? We all have that stuff. I release fear concerning our current environmental climate. I release fear of our disruptive political system. I release fear of hurricanes. I release fear of all natural disasters. Okay, now it's your turn. I release what? Negativity. Thank you. What else?
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt. Thank you. What else? Resentment. All right. We have a lot of things that we need to let go of, right? But here's the thing. Once we've let go of it, which you understand is not a one and done thing. Once we let go of it, we have to fill that space. The universe does not want a vacuum, right? So when we release something, We need to fill that space immediately with what we really do want. So, if you don't want anger, what do you want? Compassion, understanding, and love. Yes, if you feel like you're not enough or you don't have enough, love, 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 love. Gratitude, thank you. We're filled with plenty. We have plenty. We have all we want or need. We may not have accessed it yet, but we have it. How about poor relationships? What do we want instead of poor relationships? That's right, communication and what? Love, 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 love. Kindness and compassion, right? Sympathy, right. How about loneliness? What do we want to fill ourselves up if we feel lonely? Unity. What else? Dear friends. We do have friends. They might have slipped under the radar when we were writing out this list, but we have friends. Growing old and decrepit. Instead of that, we want to... Vitality. Grow bold, right? And strong. Perfection. What about unacceptable living conditions? If we think we are living in an unacceptable living condition, meaning your home, what do? We buy a new home. No. What do? We clean it. We have the opportunity to reimagine and redo. It all lands up here. What about betrayal and jealousy? Let it go, but what do we replace it with? Forgiveness and love. Right. And what about fear concerning any of this stuff? Our environment, or the political environment? What do we do about that? What do we replace that with? Prayer. It's true. Prayer is the answer to everything. Know that we're guided and guarded and protected. Know it. Know it. Exactly. Okay. How'd you like that? Thank you. We can envision life energy flowing through us like a swift stream when there's nothing to obstruct it. But various forces such as trauma, lower level vibrations, which is lower level thinking, and disappointments act like stones that impede the current. So let me speak to trauma briefly. We've all experienced trauma. We've all in this room lived long enough to have experienced trauma. It's an emotional response to sometimes a terrible event like an accident or a crime, a natural disaster, or physical or emotional abuse, neglect, experiencing or witnessing violence, the death of a loved one, war, and many, many other things. I think many of us are living in a kind of trauma right now based on what's going on in our country and around the world, right? What? Yeah. Regardless of which way we lean, a lot of us have trauma around what's going on. So we take many in-breaths and out-breaths whenever the latest news comes on, or turn it off. If we allow these to pile up, or more likely, in my case at least, are unaware that a pile-up is even happening, our life energy is thrown off course, or it's blocked entirely, causing illness and restlessness, a lack of vigor or direction. If we take time to first acknowledge that we are blocked, identify where and what the blocks are, and clear them away, which I was helping you do with that meditation, getting you started on clearing out the blocks, then we rob them of the power to impact our lives. So here recently, I felt a kind of stop in my own energy, flow. You know those rubber door stops? It kind of felt like that when I was in meditation. I couldn't get further than a particular spot. Something was holding me back or holding me down. Well, I've reached a place in my life where once I'm aware that something is off kilter, I pretty quickly know what to do. For me, I contact a spiritual mentor, or I sit with my journal. My journal is like my therapist. And I just sit and wait and pray. Like, what is it? So I did this in the last couple weeks. I talked to my spiritual mentor, and we together Well, I guess I came out of my mouth first. I said, I'm feeling sad. And I discovered a kind of sadness in me that I had shoved down. Because after all, I thought, I'm too strong. I'm too powerful. I'm too amazing to feel sad. Right. I have an awesome life. Why would I be sad? I have big, new, amazing projects in the works. How could I possibly be sad? Well, of course, that's ridiculous, right? But I was hanging on hard to that idea, but she made me stay on the phone with her until I was crying. That wasn't appreciated. But yet it was. Because I'm not a crier, except when I'm giving talks, I seem to cry. So she had to remind me that I was still human and sadness had to be recognized and honored as a legitimate emotion. I didn't want to think it was legit. I was also reminded, and I already knew this, that sadness and joy can live in the heart at the same time. Grief and love can live in our heart at the same time. It's not either or. It's and both. Everything can live in your heart at the same time. So another thing I did, which I just did with you, was run an energy check up and down my body system and my chakras while I was in a meditative state. I was open and flowing nice from my crown down to my third eye. And then when I got to my throat, I felt a little stop there. It wasn't big, but it was little. And so after much introspection and prayerful consultation with my higher self, I realized I'd not been speaking my truth all the way. I'd not been speaking my truth. Because that's what your throat, it's very powerful. Our throat chakra is extremely powerful. And if we're not speaking our truth, sometimes we'll get strep throat or a sore throat or upper respiratory. We'll have physical manifestations of not speaking our truth. Has anybody experienced that? Because I'll raise my hand. Okay. I was angry, and I was holding on to anger and pretending it wasn't there. And you might think, oh, she's a minister. She should be able to rise above this. I should be able to forgive and float on by it, right? As if that were possible. And it is possible, but not like that. So as I continued my scan, I found another small block in my heart. So I consciously opened that up like I did with my throat, flooded it with light and love. Once I hit my sacrum and my root chakra, I became very aware of not just pebbles or small blocks, but boulders. Big, giant boulders had blocked me up there. So that took some work. That answered a lot of questions, though, because I was experiencing kidney issues. I was experiencing lower back pain. I was not flowing the way I felt like I should flow. And let me tell you, since I've opened that up, I am getting ideas, creative thoughts. Everything is flowing really well right now. But it took me a while because I didn't know why I felt that stuckedness, that stickiness. So, I'm right now working, I'm a Reiki practitioner, so I'm doing Reiki on myself, and I'm running that light system through my chakra system all the time, sometimes multiple times a day. I'll just plop down and do it again. So when we cultivate simple yet affirmative habits, such as taking regular cleansing baths, practicing our prayer and meditation, our breathing exercises, smudging ourselves with sage and sweetgrass. I'll be doing that this week for a particular situation. We protect ourselves from outside influences that might impede our energy flow. When we clear our body systems on a regular basis of unwanted attachments, letting go, surrendering, and letting go of those resentments and change our negative thought patterns to a higher way of thinking, then we're more able to allow that magnificent flow to stream through us. So I want to read a page in Eric Butterworth's book. It's supposed to be on page 19. 15. So I'm going to be teaching this book coming up in July. It's called In the Flow of Life. I thought I'd already taught it because I have so many highlights and stuff in this book. I'm like, sure, I taught this, but I couldn't find any anyway, whatever. I'm going to be teaching this book. So here's a little section. And what Eric says is, in my book, Unity of All Life, I tell the story of a man who sat brooding at his desk one evening after receiving his dismissal notice from a company he had served for more than 20 years. He was reflecting in despair on the difficulty of getting another job at his age, the impossible task of living on his income, and the shock of feeling that he was no longer needed, that he was useless, through, washed up. Listen to this. This is so cool. He noticed a spider on the desk, and unconsciously he brushed it off. Suddenly he was watching in awe as the tiny creature automatically spun a strand to bear its weight and swung gracefully to the floor. He began to wonder if this tiny creature could get into the flow of a mysterious resource and deal so creatively with its crisis, then why couldn't he not do the same? The answer came dramatically. He must have gotten out of his own natural flow, or the situation could not have come to him. The fact that he was so disturbed by it proved this to be true. So a tiny little spider created in him an understanding that he had gotten out of the flow. And yeah, he had lost his job, and yeah, this and yeah, that, but the spider almost lost his life. But still, he spun a new web. I think that's a cool story, don't you? Mm-hmm. Come on, guys. Thank you. I didn't write it. Eric did. As I've told you before, the truths that I am bringing to you on a Sunday will first have to be lived out in my life the week before. Do you guys remember me saying that? Time after time after time. So, do you think that happened for me this week? So on Monday morning, I woke up sick, very sick. And at the same time, almost the exact same moment, my second son called me to ask a medical question and asked me, should he call his doctor or go to the hospital? I said, you need to go to the ER right now. And I was too uncomfortable to be able to take him. So this son had to take the bus or call an Uber or something. Turned out he had a stroke the previous day. He's 45. He had a stroke, which I had diagnosed because I'm a stroke survivor myself. So his symptoms, were the same ones I had. So his siblings and I rallied around him in beautiful ways. And then I took my youngest puppy to the vet a couple days later, which was supposed to just be a check-in to see if she could go ahead and neuter him. He needs to be neutered, and we discovered that he was sick as well. So I was sick, my son was in the hospital, he was in the hospital for 4 days, and then my puppy is sick. These kind of things are normal life experiences, life occurrences, right? They're fairly easy to navigate. But if I allow them to sit inside and fester, and then they grow into rocks and boulders and blocks, my ability to flow with life is impeded. I think it's pretty easy to see that the events of this past week might have pulled me out of the flow, but I didn't allow that to happen because I just clawed myself back in and thrown myself on the water like that. I didn't want to go there again. So as I sat down to write about being in the flow and all that we might have to do to get there. So Lao Tzu wrote this, that everything is healthy that floats with the universe. In the face of any disorder, the need is to get into the flow to release the imprisoned splendor. I always have thought that Eric Butterworth came up with that imprisoned splendor thing, but no, Lao Tzu did. Now, I don't believe that he meant that if there's illness that we're not in the flow, because we live in this world that's got germs and bacteria and all kinds of different things. But by releasing our tight grip on how things appear and accept and flow with what is, we won't be all tied up in knots, right? Do you like that? Okay, thank you. Eric Butterworth says in this book, what is called the law of healing is simply the eternal flow of life that is present even within an illness. Butterworth also said, and I'm sure many of you have heard this, your life is to be lived from the inside out. The things that happen around you or to you can have little bearing on your physical well-being. What counts are the things that happen in you, right? That's what counts, is what happens in us. So, now we know, if we consciously didn't know before, that the choice is ours to either stay bunched up and crammed behind a pile of boulders where the flow is impossible, or just allow stuff to go. We open our tight little grubby fists, we open them up, and we let go of all that we think we're in control of, because we're not. The only thing we're really in control of in this world is our reactions. That's it. So, I want you, and I'm sure you do too, to have access to all the creativity and the good health and the wonderful relationships and the resources that are ours to enjoy. So I'm going to finish up with this gorgeous quote from the Greek philosopher Plotinus. Listen, this is so gorgeous. Let your mind and heart release all that disturbs you. Think of what that is right now. Let your body be still, and all the fretting of your body, and all that surrounds your body, and let the earth and the sea and the air be still, and heaven itself be still. And then think of spirit as streaming, pouring, rushing, and shining through you, and out of you in all directions, while you sit quiet. Amen and namaste.